Fifth error type is called usage-based errors, or the fifth error type we'll discuss, usage-based errors. This error type is entirely different from the previous four other error types. Error type 1 agreement, error type 2 tenses, error type 3 condition clauses, and error type 4 comparison. All these four error types were based on logic, or we can say these first four types are governed by grammatical rules. So you could easily remember the rules, or in other words, you read a sentence, you try to apply the logic. The moment you identify anything deviates from the logic, you can spot the error for the questions based on the earlier error types. Whereas when it comes to usage-based errors, it's very much elusive or slippery, because this has to do with your exposure to English language. If you are into reading, if you are a habitual reader, you wouldn't find it difficult, because usage-based errors are, in other words, conventions of standard English. I will explain a few common structures that are usually tested, but let me say usage errors you cannot define. Only from this you will get questions. I can give you samples so that through those samples you can try to evolve the other logic and answer questions. To start with, usually usage-based errors will check the correct use of prepositions like to, for, by, from. And there isn't a specific rule for these words. Even if you look at the dictionary, they have an extensive usage, and largely the usage of these words are governed by the context. That's what I call usage errors. The way the sentences are framed, and that would govern the usage of these words. Probably we'll have some examples, you may get a better idea. Second one, the difference between the use of between and among. Whenever you use the word between, it's always between two persons or two elements, and among is always for more than two. It could be of anything, be it comparison or anything else. Examples, it would be great if there is no dispute between India and Pakistan. Between, because I'm just linking two elements, India and Pakistan. Now, for the next thing, among South African or among South Asian nations, India leads a role in peacekeeping initiative. Obviously, among South Asian nations, that means it exceeds to, I would say, India leads the peacekeeping initiative. This is for you to keep it in your mind. The word between and among, the word between is only for two, and among is when it exceeds two. Next. Now you would have understood why we call it usage-based errors. You can't question why shouldn't we use between for more than two. No, this is the convention, and this is how usage of standard English, or this is how certain traditions are followed, for which you cannot have a question. You're supposed to know these conventions. Third, whenever you have a sentence with the phrase not only, it must be followed by but also. Whenever you have a phrase not only in a sentence, it must be followed by but also. Instead of not only, if the sentence has not because, it can be followed by either but because or but instead. I can give you a few more ideas like this. For you to understand the usage of the word few and a few, let's go by an example. Look at these two sentences. First sentence says a few students are absent. Second sentence says few students are absent. If I ask you of these two sentences which one is right, you would gonna pick mostly statement 1 because this is the most common usage we come across, a few, or a little. But please learn it, or please know that both structures are right. A few students are absent, the sentence is correct. Few students are absent, sentence is correct. Which means there is a difference in the sense. When you say a few, some students are absent. When you say few students without a, it means hardly one or two, meaning you say negligible count. In other words, when you say few students are absent, you mean to say almost everyone is present, meaning one or two are absent. When you say a few students are absent, it means some students are absent. If the class strength has 60, if 50 has attended, we can say a few students are absent for sentence 1. For second sentence, of strength 60, if 57 have attended, then we would say few students are absent, meaning hardly one or two being absent. The same difference can be applied on the words a little and little. I'll give you an example. There is a little water in the pot, there is little water in the pot. When you say there is little water in the pot, it means at least 1 or 2% can drink it. When you say there is little water in the pot, you mean to say it is almost empty. So the difference between a little and little, or a few and few, doesn't exist at all in terms of structure. Only in terms of senses it's gonna change. So as far as usage based errors are concerned, when you have a sentences with a few or few, don't think that there are lies here. It's not so. Now look at these two examples. I have used the word few and I have used the word little. From this you can conclude few should be always used before countable nouns. Little should be always used before uncountable nouns. There are a few students, countable noun. There is little water, uncountable noun. Remember this idea alone. Few should be preceded by a countable noun and little should be preceded by an uncountable noun. If this gets changed, you can spot the error. You can't say few water, nor you can't say little students. Next logic. Now look at these two phrases. When you have along with, together with, these two phrases attached to the subject segment like this, the principal along with staff members, the minister together with the secretary. Instead of the word and, had it been the principal and his staff members, this is the usual way of writing it. We would use a plural noun. Instead of linking these two nouns using and, if the given sentences links these two nouns, principal and staff members, using along with, then the sentence should take a singular verb. When any two nouns get linked with the help of these phrases along with or together with instead of and, then the sentence will take a singular verb. Next, when it comes to either or neither nor constructions, the verb will agree with its immediate subject. The verb will agree with its immediate subject. In other words, if the second noun is singular, verb will be singular. If the second noun is plural, verb will be plural. To repeat the concept, in either or construction as well as in neither nor construction, the verb will agree with its immediate subject. If the second noun is singular, verb will be singular. If the second noun is plural, verb will be plural. I talked about this idea whenever two nouns are linked with these phrases along with, together with, you can also add as well as. So whenever two nouns get linked with these phrases together with, as well as, or along with, the verb will be singular. Next, whenever you indicate a time frame, usually we use the word from followed by to. The interview will happen from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. From usually followed by to. Either from to, or we can say between and. The interview will happen between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. The usual error is between is followed by to. This is the most common error. Please avoid it. Even this is being used in invitations. When they want to indicate the important timings, they would use the word between 9:15 to 10:15. No, whenever you use the word between, it should be followed by and. These are a few common logic that you should remember as far as usage based errors are concerned. And as I told you at the beginning, the more you read English, preferably newspapers or magazines, you'd come to know these conventions and you could remember these conventions. Now we'll go for solving questions based on usage based errors. Look at this question. The three richest men in America have assets worth more than combined assets in the 60 poorest countries of the world. As you read this question, I like to address a valid doubt here. I started with error type 1 agreement, then tenses, conditional clauses, comparison, and we are discussing usage based errors. The doubt you may have is how to ascertain that whether the given sentence belongs to error type 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. If you have that doubt, I'm going to give you an answer. Let's start with error type 1. The rule is when the subject is singular, verb should be singular. When the subject is plural, verb should be plural. Try to apply that rule. The three richest men in America have. So, men, plural noun, have plural form. Probably there is less likely the chance that this sentence may not test you on error type 1. Okay, next. Error type 2, either you should look for time indicator or you should go by the overall meaning of the sentence. The three richest men in America have assets worth more than the combined assets in the 60 poorest countries of the world. You have only one verb here, have assets, and this is present tense form, which means this doesn't test you on error type 2 tenses. Alright. Third one, condition clauses. That is very much easier to identify because the sentence should carry an if clause. When you read the sentence, there isn't any if clause. So thereby we can ensure that this sentence doesn't belong to third error type. Coming to the fourth error type, there is the word than. So that might be an indication that this may belong to error type 4 comparison. Now proceed slowly. The three richest men in America have assets worth more than the combined assets. So the combined element is assets that has been combined with assets again. So which means this is not error type 4, which suggests this sentence must belong to the fifth error type usage. So when you apply the rule based concepts beginning with agreement or tenses or condition clauses or comparison, you have two choices left. Either you can try to ask this question if you are very sure of finding an usage based error, or if you don't have any clues, you can very well skip the question. Now coming back to this question, the three richest men in America have assets worth more than the combined assets. It shouldn't be in, it should be of. The error lies in segment B. The correction is instead of in, the correction is of. if you have the word in, it would change the meaning that as if these 3 richest men have assets in those 60 poorest countries. No, the overall meaning of the sentence states that their asset value is more than the combined asset value of 60 poorest countries. Question number 22. Could you please tell me where can I get a copy of the advertisement giving details of the new courses? Well, you read it once or twice, it would seem that this sentence is error free, because usually this is how we would speak, or this is one utterance which is very much common in spoken English. But actually this has an error. I'll explain. This belongs to interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentence means nothing but sentences in question format. Usual or commonly we will get sentences in yes, we, O pattern. Say for example, he has won an award. Let's say this is a usual sentence pattern where you have yes, we, O pattern. Interrogative sentence or question format, the same sentence we will say has he won an award. In interrogative sentence pattern or in the question format, verb precedes the subject. Keep this idea in your mind. Usual structure is yes, we, O. That is the most common sentence structure. But the question format, verb will precede the subject. Verb will come before the subject. That's how it has been placed. Could you please tell me where? Already this is being inverted. Could you please tell me? It's not you could please tell me or please tell me. Rather, could you please tell me? Therefore, here it should be where I can. For this question, the error lies in segment A. Question number 22, the error lies in segment A. The correction is where I can get. The reason, this has already started in an interrogative structure. Neither Russia nor America are willing to wage a war at this stage. Clear indication, the sentence started or the sentence has neither nor usage in it. You do know, or probably you would remember when I discussed the usage based errors, I said when you have neither nor constructions or either or constructions, the verb will agree with the immediate subject. This is what I told you. Here, America is singular, therefore the correction should be is. Question number 23, the error lies in segment A. Instead of are willing, it should be is willing. When you look at lengthy sentences, don't think the question would be challenging. It is not necessarily so. Read the question. Although there are some similarities in the qualification of both candidates, the differences among them are considerably pronounced. I have mentioned it earlier and I like to repeat it again. First thing that you have to do is try to identify which error type the given sentence belongs to. Check whether this belongs to error type 1 agreement. If it is so, you need to apply the rule subject verb agreement. If the subject is singular, verb should be singular. If the subject is plural, verb should be plural. That can happen in split seconds. Although there are some similarities, from this we can understand subject verb agreement is intact. Plural subject, plural verb. If the given sentence belongs to second error type, there should be indication on, or there should be some time indicators, or the overall meaning of the sentence would suggest which tense form it belongs to. Although there are some similarities, the moment you read it, this sentence belongs to present tense and there is very less a chance for you to have a question from error type 2 which hinges on present tense forms. Usually error type 2 tense form questions would check your grammatical knowledge on past tense forms or future tense forms. When I say tense forms, I mean simple or perfect or continuous or perfect continuous. Very less is a chance for you to get a question on present tense forms. Okay, so with a clear indication, we have understood that this is not error type 1 and this doesn't belong to error type 2. Well, can this be error type 3 condition clauses? No. Had it been the case, this would have carry a word if. We are reading this sentence, there isn't any if in the given question. Not only that, while you read the sentence and when you get the overall meaning, it should suggest a condition. The very meaning we can clearly understand whether it belongs to probable condition or improbable condition or less probable condition. So there isn't any indication. So we are very sure that this doesn't belong to error type 3. Error type 4 is comparison. Hope you remember the logic which I taught in error type 4 comparison. You should look for the compared element. You should check whether the compared element tallies with the other side. Now that is not the case. So this is how you need to ensure the given question's error type. Alright. So it's a clear indication that this question belongs to error type 5 usage. Move on. Try to find any clues. Although there are some similarities in the qualifications of both candidates, the differences among them, when you deal with two entities, you cannot use the word among. Therefore, for question number 24, the error lies in segment B. The error lies in segment B. The correction is the differences between. You can note, I already stated, but still you can note, the use of word among is correct when it exceeds two entities or two elements or two parties. Between is only for two entities. Next question. Many scientists are alarmed over the interest in such pseudoscientific topics as ESP, flying saucers, and the occult, fearing that it may herald a new dark age of gullibility, ignorance, and thinking in superstitious ways. Don't panic, please. By reading the question itself, or while you read the question itself, you would find this question is challenging. Very less a chance you would get such highly challenging questions throughout. So when you are finding it at want of time or if your practice is limited, you can skip it. Now, if you want to solve these questions, have a special eye for the words being used here. Many scientists are alarmed over the interest in such pseudoscientific topics as ESP, flying saucers, and the occult, fearing that it may herald a new dark age of gullibility, ignorance, and thinking in superstitious ways. This question carries a glaring mistake, and if your reading ability is good, you can find it. You can take 10 seconds time. That's more than enough for you to find the answer. Try. Many scientists are alarmed over the interest in. The right sentence structure should be pseudo-scientific topics such as the error lies in segment B. The correction is, it's not such pseudo-scientific topics. It should be pseudo-scientific topics such as. As I said, this carries a glaring mistake and that can be easily identified if your reading ability or if your reading exposure is average. Next question. The teacher sat down beside the frightened child and tried to reassure him that the monster was merely imaginary. On the first look, it would be very difficult for you to get the answer. So I straight away give the answer. For this question, the error lies in segment A, and the correction is it's not besides, it is beside. We call it homonyms. You can make a note of most popular homonyms. Beside, besides. It's just one letter, but it changes the meaning. The word beside means nearby. The word besides means in addition to. Similarly, it would be better if you try to know the differences or remember the differences between ideal and idle, noble, Nobel, desert, dissart, adapt, adopt, accent, assent. These are all few common homonyms. Even you can add the other common ones. Economic, economical, historic, historical. I given such a list of homonyms in the vocabulary section of the mobile app. You can go through it and try to know the differences. Even I have provided examples, so you try to get it and learn or know the differences. It would be easy for you to get the answers for these sort of questions. Question number 27. I believe we are slightly getting improved on our ability to attack spotting error questions. So I like to solve few questions in less than 15 or 20 seconds. And I believe when you remember this logic or when you learn this logic, certainly you too can solve questions in less than 20 seconds. It was barely midnight when I arrived home, but I found them both sitting at the table waiting on me. Pretty much you would spotted the error. The error lies in segment C. It's not waiting on me, it should be waiting for me. This you can give it a shot. The maximum time for you to get answer for this question is 20 seconds. Got it? Good show then. During the final minutes of his speech, the speaker requested to the audience to hold its applause. What is the error? The speaker requested the audience. You can't request to something. The speaker requested the audience. Question number 28, answer is B. The correction is the word to should be removed. Whenever you use the word request, even while you write requisition letters, you would always say, I request you to permit. I request you to allow. I request you to avoid. Therefore, the word request should be followed by an object. The word request should take a noun before a preposition. You won't say request to something. You would always request someone to do something. Next question. This widely publicized detergent is not much different than the one which I have been using. Pretty much easier. The error lies in segment B. The answer is it's not different than. The word different will take a preposition either from or to. Here it's not different than. It is different from the one which I have been using. Either you can say different from the one I have been using, or you can say different to the one I have been using. I am opposed to the plan of action not because it is ill-conceived and that it seems impractical. Does this question carry any clue? Yes, it does. You have not because in this sentence. When you have not because in this sentence, it must be followed by but because, right? Apply it here, apply the logic here. The error lies in segment B. The correction is, instead of and that, it should be but because. 50% of the people alive today have never made a phone call, but 30% still have no electricity connections to their homes. The error lies in segment B. I've given you the clue. In fact, I've given you the answer itself. I said for question number 31, the error lies in segment B. Can you recognize the segment that has to be changed? Well, I'll help you out. It should not be but, it should be and. Question number 31, the answer is B. If you observe closely, or even if you watch this video second time, especially pay attention to questions based on usage error type. And if you pay attention, you will understand all usage based error questions have to do with your reading exposure. If you are a habitual reader, be it a reader of newspaper or a reader of magazine, or even a reader of a novel or storybooks for that matter, you can easily spot errors based on usage. Question number 32. For her sake as well as for Mohan, I hope fervently that she might get the job. For her sake, this is in possessive case, right? So the error lies in segment A. The correction is for her sake as well as for Mohan's. It should be Mohan apostrophe S. For this question, the error lies in segment A. The correction is Mohan apostrophe S. For her sake as well as for Mohan's sake. A body of volunteers have been organized to help the faculty members in their attempt to raise funds. I would say this is one of the most common question type that you could expect. Whenever a sentence begins with a body of, a series of, a number of, pay attention to this word a, which is an indication that this is singular. Therefore, the verb should be singular. Question number 33, the error lies in segment A. And remember, definitely you can rely on this clue. You may have questions which carries a series of or a number of or a body of. The first letter, if it begins with an indefinite article a or an, it is always singular. One should take advantage of opportunities to talk with native speakers if one wants to improve your English. I believe this is the easiest one. The error lies in segment C. The correction is one apostrophe S. Because we're discussing third person, someone in general. One should take advantage of opportunities to talk with native speakers if one wants to improve. Either you can say one's English, or you can say his English, or you can say her English. All these three forms are correct. When you discuss someone in common, usually we use the word one. The corresponding pronoun can be either one apostrophe S or his or her. Next question. Look at this question. Both the teens were asked to make a separate proposal, didn't they? Look at the last segment, didn't they? This suggests this question tests you on question tags. I like to explain the rules. You need to remember only 2 rules related to question tags. I'd like to explain those 2 rules with examples. Rule number 1. Look at this example. He is a doctor. The tag is isn't he. She will not come. The tag is will she. From this you can understand when the sentence has a positive form, tag should be in negative form. When the sentence has a negative form, this tag should be in positive form. This is the first rule. Whenever a sentence takes a positive form, tag should be negative and vice versa. Second rule, look at the third example. They submitted the project yesterday. The tag is didn't they. You might be a bit confused. In the previous first 2 cases, you had the word is, tag is based on the same form isn't. She will not, the tag is based on the same form. But here there isn't any, therefore the tag is didn't. You can easily remember the rule. Whenever you have modal or auxiliary forms, or instead of stating modal and auxiliary forms, we can say whenever you have words like is, or, was, were, may, might, will, would, shall, should, can, could, etc. As in the case of the first 2 examples, the tag will be created using the same form. In the absence of these auxiliary forms, or in the absence of these words, as in the third case, when there is an absence of these words, when there is an absence of auxiliary forms, or when you do not have is, or, was, were, may, might, can, could, shall, should, will, would, when there is no such word in the sentence as in the third case, we would use do forms to create the tag. They submitted the project yesterday. We do not have a modal or an auxiliary in the sentence. In other words, we do not have words like is, or was, were, or may, might, or will, would, or can, could. In such instances, you would rely on do forms to create a tag. Right. Do you wonder why the word didn't is given? Simple, because they submitted the project. Submitted is in past tense. The past tense form of do is did. So as far as question tags are concerned, it's enough you remember these 2 rules. Rule number 1, when the sentence is positive, tag should be negative. When the sentence is negative, tag should be positive. The second rule, in the absence of auxiliary forms, or in the absence of words like is, or, was, were, will, would, can, could, shall, should, may, might, you have to create tag using do forms. Remember these 2 rules. Both the teams were asked to make a separate proposal, didn't they? When you have a spotting error question with a question tag attached to it, preferably you pay attention to the question tag segment, because that is where most likely the error would lie. In this case, the error lies in C segment. If you apply the rule, you would understand the correction as well. Both the teams were asked to make a separate proposal. The sentence is positive, therefore tag should be negative. Apply the second rule. When you have auxiliary forms like is, or was, were, the tag should be created using the same form. So instead of didn't, it should be weren't they. You are just 16 years old, isn't you? So needless to say, the error lies in segment C. Yes, the error lies in segment C. The correction is, instead of isn't it, it is aren't you.